All right. Welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Monica Riley, and I am the chapter president for Women of Global Change in Las Vegas. Now, Women of Global Change is committed to sisters inspired in service to our communities. And if you are interested in joining the Las Vegas chapter of Women of Global Change, I invite you to check out the chat below where we have the link to join, and we are definitely here to embrace you. We have many projects lined up for the remainder of the year, and one that is very popular with everyone on a global platform is our Fireside Chat series, hosted by me. Fireside Chat is where we identify a dynamic woman in the community who is serving in her area of expertise, whether it is holistic health, whether it is business, finance, education, the arts, community, social services. And I love talking to women, especially inspired women who inspire other women to be their best selves. And I come to the table with questions that are unscripted, and the guest is always willing to answer the questions. We ask the questions that you want the answers to, and we make it make sense. And so this evening, back by popular demand, we are joined by Joy Retz Sherrill, who is one of my go-tos whenever I need grounding and alignment. And we are talking today about AAA Saves the Day. That's our topic. So what does that mean? Um, it's an awareness, it's an alignment, and it's an action to be grounded in the space that you're in, but also to elevate to the next level of where you want to be. And as I introduce our lovely guest, Joy, Joy is the founder of Enjoy Being Fit, a holistic health and wellness business dedicated to teaching stressed out professionals how to reclaim their lives. In 2016, she went on a quest for a better overall life with a focus on her health and living in her purpose. She left a successful corporate treasury career of 24 plus years, went back to school for her yoga and nutrition certifications, and now she helps stressed out professionals reframe their mindset, manage their anxiety and pressures, invest in their overall health and well-being, take back their time, redefine their financial landscape. Her journey has not been easy, and she would not trade it for the world because the lessons she has learned through all of her experiences have led her to this very place today, helping others realize their value in this world and appreciating life to its fullest. As Joy says, the only way out is in. Learn to navigate the path. Joy, welcome back. We're so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Monica. I am excited to be back, especially in the climate that we're in. All the craziness that's going on, we need some grounding and some centering. So I'm super excited to be here and looking forward to our fireside chat.
Yes, and I'm also excited because we're joined by one of my beloved family members, my cousin, Bonnie, who is joining us from Pepper Pike, Ohio. And if you have any questions, Bonnie, just drop them in the chat and we will get to them later. Well, one of the things that I really like to do, and I know that Joy likes to do, is before we begin anything, whether it's a virtual fireside chat or in person, we like to ground and center our space. So for me, I'd like to offer up two things today. One is let's place our left hand over our heart and our right hand over our left hand. And the mantra for this evening is I accept myself just as I am. So I accept
Accept
myself
myself
just
just
as
I
I
am.
am. And we have to remember that this is so important because we show up differently on a daily basis. And sometimes within a day, we could be multiple us's, right?
Yeah.
So we have to learn how to accept ourselves where we are. And Joy, when you created your program, AAA Saves the Day, what did you have in mind?
See, that's the interesting thing is that I wasn't really sure until later on after I had gone through the trials and the pain points of what it was. So at first, so first of all, AAA Saves the Day is awareness, alignment, and action. So I didn't recognize the awareness part until I found myself literally having to be present for trying to find that present time. So that's where the awareness comes in, is being present. But in being present, you have to ask yourself three key questions to deal with whatever situation that is going on, because that's what I love about AAA Saves the Day, is that it can literally work for any circumstance or situation that you are in. So the three questions, if you want me to go ahead and share those now, I can do that, or we can continue and then I'll share them in a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking as you're speaking, the AAA awareness, alignment, and action is
Yes.
so relative and so pertinent, especially today, because as our society opens up, as our global world reopens after pandering to this pandemic that we've been experiencing for literally a year and a half, what does it look like now? I'm finding in my practice, many women especially, because we're the ones who have been juggling everything. Once again, the martyrs and the saviors of this pandemic movement. um,
Mhm.
and so as we look at the re-entry, many are looking at it with trepidation, with anxiety, because the unknown is, well, what do I do now? Do I still continue to send my kids to school, or do I homeschool them? Do I go back to work, or do I try to create a business working from home? I've been cooped up with my spouse, my partner for the last year and a half. It ain't working. Do I get rid of him or her, or do we try to stick it out? There's so many questions now. So as we look at where we are now, how do we apply AAA?
Okay, so how to apply, especially with from an emotional well-being standpoint, is really, again, getting into that present mindset and asking those three questions. How does this make me feel? So if there's hesitation or if there's resistance, then you know that there's fear that's coming into play. And the way we deal with that is we have to deal with it head on. We can't, hide it, ignore it. It has to be dealt with head on. And the way that can be done is looking at your environment and taking it one step at a time. So that's the awareness part of it, and saying, okay, how does this make me feel? I've got some resistance and some fear. And then why does it make me feel that way? Well, it makes me feel that way because I've been cooped up for a year, or I don't know what's going to happen when I go back into the office. Am I going to catch COVID? Or how is my organization going to help me in my emotional space or my well-being? Will I be protected? So there's all of these questions, but we have to, as individuals, we have to focus on us first, getting ourselves grounded and comfortable with the environment that we're in. So the awareness of where we are right now without panic, because panic and anxiety sets in. And so we have to work through the process. And a lot of that, the way I have done it in the past, is write it down, get it out of your head, because that anxiety or moving meditation also helps in releasing that anxiety within the body. So it's that awareness that, hey, you know what? Yes, these things are happening, but I have to be mindful of how I'm going to move forward in this. And then the third question is, what can I do to transmute the experience? And that's where I talked about the moving meditation. So it's very key in those awareness and in the awareness part of the process that we are true in being present to recognize how important it is to go or feel through the emotion and not try to mask it. So that's what I would say in terms of the awareness part of AAA Saves the Day.
So I like that too, because with awareness comes understanding, and especially understanding of self. And I like how you say, get it out of your head, write it down, because when we connect to that paper, whether it's a journal, whether it is a post-it, the important thing is when we connect our pen to paper, pencil to paper, crayon to paper, we are actually active in kind of like purging that mental space of those chatters, those voices in our head. And I find for me, especially as I'm journaling, it is so helpful to just, write down anything that's on my mind or bothering me, or that I need to address later on, because once I've written it down, I release it.
Right. That right there, releasing that out of the physical body, because, for the past coming up on a year and a half now, by the time everyone goes back to work, whether you've gotten that notification that, hey, time to go back to work, it's been a year and a half. So we have literally these pent up feelings and emotions because it's been a roller coaster, right? Everything was changing every couple of weeks or even days or months. And it's all about settling and getting out of that fight or flight existence, that survival. Like I like to tell my clients, we've been in survival mode for a year and a half now. And when we continuously are in that survival mode, it starts to affect not only our emotional health, but our physical health. And we have to be, again, have that awareness that this is not right. I can't continue to feel like this. And we have to act on the value of who we are at our core to create that peace that we need.
So, can you share with us and those who may be tuning in, especially later? And the wonderful thing about Women of Global Change, we now have over 19 chapters globally. So, this program tonight will be seen by our sisters in Nigeria, Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe, India, Egypt,
Beautiful.
Cadiz, Spain, Atlanta, the DMV. I mean, I just get really excited because this is what this virtual space is all about, connecting. And they are super busy as we are. So for those who don't know what a moving meditation is, can you share with us what it means when you say moving meditation, as opposed to when someone says, oh, okay, just meditate?
Okay. A moving meditation is just like it says, where we are in movement, whether it be for a nice calm walk, or if it's stretching, maybe, couple movements to the left and to the right, but it's creating that gentle flow. Maybe it's a gentle flow yoga, but it's creating that movement within the body. So if we have anxiety, we are literally releasing that anxiety through our body, getting it out of the muscles, getting it out of the body. And what I like to tell my clients is, through the movement, if you just do a full extension, sometimes if you just stretch your arms all the way out, you're releasing any tension through your fingertips. So a lot of times my clients will be like, you know what, I move some energy through my fingertips. I release some tension through my fingertips. So if you look at it or think about it that way, as I'm releasing tension through my fingertips, then it just creates this mindset. So yeah, just like that.
And as we're moving and creating a new mindset and releasing, I want to bring up something really important that we added information, the link in the chat below, to your amazing Namaste Nightcap. I know for me, it has been an invaluable source go-to for me on Thursday evenings to kind of center my week. So if you can share briefly before we go on to more pillars with respect to AAA, what is Namaste Nightcap?
Okay, great. Yes, Namaste Nightcap is actually a Facebook group, a private Facebook group that I started when all of this pandemic happened last year. And I originally was doing it for myself. And then I said, you know what? I need to share this. I need to get this out to other people because I'm sure I'm not the only one feeling this. So it's about a 20-minute session, and it's all about moving meditation. And we start out with just getting centered and grounded. And we do a little bit of breath work. We move into a gentle flow yoga. And then we move into Shavasana, which is a quiet opportunity for us to release and renew and prepare ourselves for the next day. So I do that live on Thursday evenings, and then there's previous videos that are out there so that people can drop in at any time of the day and just create that moving meditation or get that relaxation or quiet time that they need. And that's necessary, especially with our emotional well-being.
Right. And as we talk about emotional well-being and awareness, and as we touched upon a little bit earlier, one of the things that you teach us, one of the pillars of your your awareness and your alignment, I would
Mhm.
say, and action. Um, you speak about reframing how we view our life and our relationships. Um, some folks are in denial.
Yes.
We seriously know and we recognize, or no, we see what's going on around us, but
Mhm.
some folks choose to stay in denial. Um, what's your secret to having someone recognize that maybe there is some work that needs to be done with respect to self and relationships?
Yeah, when I'm dealing with someone who is either in denial, or if someone is in that place of denial, they need to, take a moment and think about, again, going back to the awareness. I'm aware that things are going on around me, but I think it'll just pass. Well, if it hasn't passed within a week, or if you're still feeling the same that you were last year, guess what? It's time for you to make changes, because the world is going to continue to change. And if you're stuck in this mindset that everything will be okay without me doing anything, then it's never going to work. You have to be willing to receive something different. Be willing to create the change that is necessary, because the world isn't going to change to appease you. You have to place that value back on yourself and not on material things or other people, because other people will always disappoint you, regardless of the things that you do for them. But if you have the value within yourself, then you just create this energy, this connection where those people that are on the within the same mindset and the same experiences that you are, positive experiences that you are, then it's bound to create this abundance that you can enjoy for a lifetime and can share with others. But negativity will get you nowhere, period, point blank.
And we know that mindset in this transition and this recognition and this ability or inability to receive, mindset matters. How do we take that first step for someone who's like, yeah, I know I need to change, or I know I need to effectively rethink this, but I don't know what's my first step. How, what would you recommend, you know, not leaping into something, because some folks aren't ready to leap,
Yeah.
but, taking that little baby step, that first step. How do we do that?
Yeah. I would say the first step, a first baby step would be in the morning, taking 5 minutes just for yourself. Literally, if you have to go outside, if you have to go in a closet, if you have to go in your car, go out back. But taking 5 minutes, saying starting tomorrow, I'm going to take 5 minutes in the morning and I'm just going to sit quietly. Or, like we said, moving meditation. Start that moving meditation just for 5 minutes. Maybe it's just stretching and extending your arms down, around, and up, and bringing things forward and just breathing, but just creating that space, that openness. 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes. We all have 5 minutes. Well, I know we can say, I don't have 5 minutes. You do. You just choose not to take those 5 minutes for yourself. So that is key, is that we have to start choosing what is going to be productive and positive for us, for ourselves, for me, and stop overlooking ourselves. Put yourself first, and the first part of your day, make you first. Bring the value to you first.
That makes so much sense. And I feel like, as I've done research with your, I call them pillars, because pillars to me represent strength. And, as you said, if we can't find 5 minutes for ourselves at the beginning of the day, we're in trouble.
Yes.
That means that we need to rethink the paradigm and the parameters that we create for ourselves, as you have said, around self-worth and value. Um, and as we create positive, healthy mental habits for our well-being, which is one of your pillars, how do you recommend that we go about that? Okay, so we've awakened, I've stretched, I've taken my 3 victory breaths, Ujjayi breaths, my 5 minutes. Now, where do I go?
All right. From that point on, you have to start looking at, where in my life is causing me angst, or where am I getting anxious? And you have to start saying, okay, I need to create, I will always say this, create boundaries. You have to protect your peace. And so, and creating those boundaries so that next step, you've had your 5 minutes. So that next step, let's say the kids are, if you have children, your kids are just running amok and just going all over the place. You can take that time. You can say, you know what? Right now, we are not doing this. This is what we're going to do this morning, because this is going to get us from point A to point B. If you can't find your shirt, wear a different one. If you can't find your shoes, find different shoes. I mean, literally, it has to, sometimes we have to just put it in its place and keep going. But we can't allow people to run us to the point where we are just ragged and exhausted and emotionally drained even before we start our day.
And that makes sense. And I'm chuckling too, because as we said at the top, we have to each day meet ourselves where we are. And you're absolutely right. If we've got kids running around or grandkids who are misplaced and someone can't find the other shoe, change your shoes. If you get the kickback from the teenagers, well, they don't match my outfit. Well, who cares? You either go barefoot or you change your outfit.
Exactly.
I feel like we also have to create boundaries for our fur babies, for those of us who have fur babies at home too, because, being cooped into one space, everyone has
Mm,
been living on top of each other like it's one big living room, right?
yes,
So now,
yes.
as we talk about the re-entry process and recreating boundaries or creating boundaries, we have to include everyone who's in the household.
Right. Yes, and we have two dogs, and so our fur babies, they're on a schedule. I've made sure they're on a schedule. They know when I vacuum, they know when I clean it, so they know when to have their space, and I know when to give them their space. So I literally, when this started, I put us on a schedule so that we know to give each other our spaces and our boundaries. And I have a spot outside that I go to outside when I just need to just clear the air and just step away from technology, from the craziness of whatever that demands may be from work, from family or friends, whatever that is. I've created my Zen space outside. I have my office here, which is my Zen space, but I have a Zen space outside that also helps me kind of regroup and just create a happier me whenever I get frustrated during the day. So it's key to have that place where just you can go and just reconnect with yourself and disconnect from the world.
And so I think that's so important as we look at your third pillar, which is how do we show up for ourselves on a daily basis? And how do we create that consistent framework for ourselves to show up consistently? Well, number
Mhm.
one, to show up, right? And number
Yeah.
two, to have a consistent presence when we show up.
Yeah.
You mentioned a Zen space.
Yes.
What's in your Zen space? Folks I find that whatever has happened during this time where we've been quarantined or shut up or whatever you want to call it, um, a lot of creativity has come forth from people. I know folks who I have clients, I have relatives who are making rugs, who've made clothes, who are baking bread, who are making wine, over this last year and a half. So I love this abundance and resurgence of homemade creativity. But when we look at creating a Zen space, what would you recommend that maybe some things that we might bring into our sacred Zen spaces to kind of promote that peace for us?
Yes, sacred space. Oh, that's where, first of all, let it be a space that's bright, not a space that's dark. Something that literally can put a smile on your face. And then if you have a rug, a soft rug that you like, or maybe a soft pillow that you can sit on, or a nice rug that you can lay on. And then I have it, it has a double purpose. So I don't know if you've seen those little tiny ottomans that you can put blankets in.
Oh, yes.
And if you flip it over, it turns into a table.
Yes.
So I flipped mine over, turned it into a table, and then I have my candles and I have my amethyst crystals and your candles, of course. I love your candles. And then I have some oils, and then I also have a diffuser. So just to create, not only to have the aromatherapy, but create that area of relaxation and calm. That is what you want. You don't want an area that is cluttered. Have it open so that you can keep your thoughts clear. Because not only, if we're in a cluttered space, then our mind can be cluttered. So we want to make sure the space is open. So that's where the sacred space and creating this element of clarity comes in.
Okay, so as we create the space, um, something that I just heard you say. So, do we allow music in, or is this a space really that we need to have a quiet solitude where we can kind of reconnect with our thoughts, even?
Mhm. And this is the brilliant thing. It's your space. So if you like music, sometimes I like music and I'll have nice, soft, meditative music. And then sometimes I won't. And then I also have a very specific journal that I write in, because there's times where I'm in meditation in my quiet space, and then I get those creative moments, and I have to write it down. So having that journal nearby, maybe some candles, soft music. It's your choice. It's your sacred space, but just keep that space clear of any clutter. So that way there's just that freedom to connect and be open to receiving whatever comes.
Okay, so now we've awakened. We've taken our 5 minutes.
Mhm.
We've also had an opportunity to establish our boundaries for the day. Maybe we've moved into our sacred space already. It might be that kind of morning. Or
Yeah.
maybe we're engaging and now we're getting ready to move into the sacred space. I don't know. Um,
Mhm.
but I think it's so important for us to, as you mentioned, to be aware of how we show up to ourselves every morning, but also too how we show up and how we are perceived by others.
Mhm.
Is that part of the alignment process, or where does that fit into? I can see how it would fit into action. I think that I guess what I'm getting at is sometimes we don't know how we appear to others.
Right.
And that's part of the denial that we talked about. So that awareness of how we appear to others, um, can you share with us any tips on how we can um, appear? I'm just going to say it. How can we be better? How can we appear better to people? um,
Yeah.
Especially when we might not be aware of how we show up to others.
Right. And so that third pillar, which is action, and it's all about creating that momentum to bring about change. And the way you can do that when it comes to relationships or how you show up in the world is, going back to boundaries. If you've never had boundaries before and you're showing those boundaries, and those relationships that you're in, if they don't like those, then that gives you an idea that, oh, okay, maybe this is a situation where this person has been taking advantage of me. So it's kind of a clearing out as we start to take action on certain things in our relationships, and creating those boundaries. It's very interesting how it just kind of, people that have taken advantage or aren't going to be a part of our future tend to drop off naturally. I don't know if that's happened to you, but
Yes.
it's definitely happened to me. When you say no,
Yes.
it starts to, it brings value back to you. And then they're like, well, now wait a minute, you've always said yes.
Yes.
Well, yes, but I'm now saying no for me because I need to realign my life so that it supports my future. Because see, what happens a lot of time is we don't support ourselves, but we're so willing to support other people. And I'm not saying not support other people, but when you've lost yourself in the process, then that's where the problem comes in. So that's where the action to bring back the value to yourself and learn to say no, to give you peace of mind, but also give you direction to create that change. That's where the freedom to create your new experiences and new existence comes into play.
And I love, yeah, let's talk about, I'm so glad you said the whole no thing, because number one, no means no in every language, right? So there's
Yes.
no trying to configure or figure out what no means when someone says no to you. All you have to say is no. You don't have to give further explanation. And
That
I
part.
think for me, no is so empowering. In these last 2 years, I would say, I've started to say no, 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 not offer any explanations. And you're so right. Folks who are no longer valuable along my journey or my path, they just tend to naturally fall by the wayside. And, that's the season and the reason for that particular friendship or relationship. Season's over, you know, kiss and move forward. But I don't know if you found this, but when I say no, some folks really get offended. I mean, they're just like, no,
Mm-hmm.
did I stutter? No,
Right.
you know? So, and I remember 2 years ago when I was on my whole no campaign, right? Because it was purposeful. I needed
Yeah.
to structure boundaries. There were many transitions that I was going through, and I was still trying to be everything to everybody, and it wasn't
Mm.
working for Dr. Monica, right?
Yeah.
So, when I would say no and see a look of disappointment or sadness or anger on their face, I'd start to think to myself, oh, well, maybe I can figure out how I can fit that in for them. But then that was a quick
Mm.
thought. No, no, I can't do it. No, I'm not available. No,
Right.
that doesn't fit for me. But have you found that in your no, some people really get they get angry.
Oh, yes. And that's what I couldn't understand. I was like, well, why are you getting angry? Because I said no. And then I had to think back about all the times I had said yes. And so to me, it wasn't that they were caring about truly asking me. They knew I was going to say yes anyway. So they weren't um, they weren't caring. They weren't truly caring. They were just doing it so that they could get it off their plate and put it on mine. And I had to really take a look at that. It's like, well, now, wait a minute. So you're getting all upset about this. So this means that you really don't care about how this affects me. And so that's when I really started taking I started taking notes and like really thinking about how many times have I actually said no?
Right.
And then, this was, and I was going through, you know, different relationships and friendships, looking at each individual person and saying, okay, when was the last time you said no? Okay, you've never said no. So you have no boundaries.
Right. It's kind of like we flip the script back onto them. The no part is so telling. If you say
Mhm.
no to someone and they get angry or distraught or they start cussing you out, it means two things. One, they don't care about you, but
Mhm.
two, they themselves don't have any boundaries, you know?
Right.
And so I've also found that if indeed they don't have any or recognize boundaries, they might be, in a sense, envious of our boundaries now, you know.
Right.
Well, how can she say no? Because I just did, you know,
Right.
because I just did. And that is healthy for me. It may not
Mhm.
work for you, but that's what works for me. And
Right.
if you care about me, you'll respect my no.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that is so important in this climate right now. Emotional well being. We have to be able to say no so that we can say yes to ourselves, because we are emotionally screaming out for protection, protecting our energy, protecting our peace. We need guidance, we need direction. And the only way that we can do that is to create those boundaries so that we can have that action to create the momentum that is going to bring about positive change for us.
So once we're on that momentum bus, you
Mhm.
know, how do we continue to fuel it? What are some things that you can offer, tips to offer for us to continue along that journey? Because sometimes, regardless of, well, taking into account, who may be in our lives or what our
Mhm.
businesses look like or
Mhm.
family obligations, sometimes you have people deliberately trying to stop that train, right? So,
Yes.
and derail us. So, how do we keep that momentum going?
Okay. And the way to do that is, again, looking at the relationship. So if you've got someone that is negative and they're just continuing to come at you, there's this thing on the phone called block, or you can text them and respond, can't talk about it right now. We'll touch base on it later. But again, you are creating those boundaries for them to either, or you could just say, you know what, this is not good for my life. And I appreciate where this friendship or relationship has come to this point, but I can no longer do this. And another way that you can also continue to have that momentum or that motivation, seek out groups or positive relationships that you have things in common. Whether it be like for me, when I was going on my journey, yoga, or if it's a hiking group, or if it's a book club, but something that's going to create self development, which is key. We cannot remain stagnant. Well, you could, but you're not going to get very far. So it's having self development, whether it's, going to a bookstore. I love turning pages. So going to the bookstore, buying a book on self development or something positive that is going to help you get out of either the mindset or away from individuals, or if it's an environment, like if it's your work environment, let's say as we're going back into the office. It's a work environment that you just don't want to be a part of, or it's a coworker or something like that. Make it a point to take your breaks and get out of the office. If it's going down the stairs, walking outside, going to your car, touch your car, and then tag, play a little tag with yourself. How long will it take me to get down to my car? Or if I want to just stroll down to my car. But it's getting out of that environment so that you don't feel stuck, because that gets us nowhere. Feeling stuck or being in that gap is not where we want to be. Or if it's going out to lunch with a friend that you haven't talked to in a long time, and you had a connection before, and you were great girlfriends or great guy friends, whatever it is, but creating those positive experiences that keep you motivated, keep you inspired. And then journal. If you've got some negative things going on, I will always go back to journal. Write it down, get it out of your head. So that way it frees your mind from the clutter, because we have between 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. And if they're all negative and they're still in the mind, then how can you even begin to process being in a positive place? So write it down and get it out of your head, period. And leave it on the paper. And don't even look at the paper. Do something else, go outside. But at least you wrote it down and got it out.
And it's so important for us to be proactive instead of reactive.
Yes.
Because the one thing that we have control over is ourselves, right? We don't have control over what's going on in our respective cities with respect to this reentry process. We don't have control over whether or not we're going to re-enter at all. Some of my clients, they are going to sit 2021 out and continue to live how they've been living for the last 14 months. That works for them. It's safe for them. They're proactive, productive, getting their exercising in, making their bread, sewing their clothes, doing all of these wonderful things. Glory be, it comes to what we spoke of at the top of the hour, and that's respecting the change, respecting the process. And I like how you shared this whole getting back into like an office space or a work environment. I have not been in a traditional work environment for over a decade. So that's not my concern, but I know that it keeps people up, many people up at night. Going back into a coworker space where in reality, some coworkers may not be there anymore.
Right.
They may have transitioned, or they might just not be there anymore. As you mentioned earlier, what do these new spaces look like? Will I be protected? Will I be safe? How would you recommend, getting back to the mindset process, how would we prepare ourselves mentally, to go back into a work environment that literally has changed?
Yeah. The first thing that I would ask for people to do, or give people a suggestion, is reach out to your manager and ask them, how have they prepared the space? This way you have some idea based on that conversation, because what you don't want to do is go in blind, go in not knowing. So why? Because that creates an anxiety, like, oh my goodness. And so what do? We create this story, right? If we don't know the unknown, we will create the worst scenario absolutely possible. And then we try to talk ourselves out of crazy. So, before that happens, have that conversation with your manager or HR to find out what have they put in place. So that way it puts your mind at ease a little bit or as much as possible so that you're not walking into an environment that you are just in a panic because you haven't had that conversation. So that would be the first thing that I would say is have that conversation with your manager or find out from HR what you're walking into. And then once you have an idea of what that's going to be, but even before that, start your 5-minute plan every single day. Start scheduling that every single day. If your time to go back to the office is June 1st, you start today or you start tomorrow, whatever that may be. And I would say do that 5 minutes during the day and then 5 minutes in the evening, because you're creating the day, but then you're also ending the day on a mild, calm tone so that you can sleep well. So the key thing in going back into the office is identifying what you're walking into. And then you can build from there because the scenarios will be different. If they've got it where, okay, you walk in and you sanitize your hands and you wear a mask all day. Okay, well, I understand that I'm gonna have to wear a mask all day. So that way you're clear on what you're walking into, but don't go in not knowing. That is my number one thing that I would say.
So we are aware, we are aligned. And so now let's talk a little bit about action. I like how you mentioned, it's so important that, we take that final step into action, into closure, whatever that looks like for us. Um, and as we understand that change is inevitable and change is necessary, um, how do we personally work through that change so that we can have the best transformation possible?
Well, first of all, understanding that you can't get around change. Change is going to happen every single second of the day. So the minute that you can get clear on, I can't stop change, then it starts to get a little easier. You can say, okay, well, I'm aware that I can't stop change, right? So then I have to align myself with what this picture looks like. Okay, so I want to go into the environment in a positive way. Okay, well, how do I do that? Well, I start my day with my 5-minute moving meditation. Then I go to work in a different direction. So you're creating change already. So each time you do it, guess what? You've won. So as the change gets a little bit more advanced, you're already a part of the changing process. So you have to first recognize and be aware that change is going to happen regardless. And you can either be resistant to it and fear it and get frustrated and try to, you know, fight the world over the change, which, that's a huge mountain to climb.
Yes.
So working through that process of, okay, let me start out small, start with this change, and then progress, excuse me, progress forward a small step at a time, then it gets a lot easier. So we have to recognize that change is necessary in order for us to grow and continue to flourish as individuals. In our professional lives, in our personal lives, our families, our relationships, all of that. We need to continue to grow, period.
Yeah, I like that. And as I move to the chat to see if there are any questions or comments, as we end our session this evening, I'd like to end with one of your famous breathing, I call it breath to life breathing, but with the intention of moving us forward from languishing to flourishing.
Mm.
And so let's think about that. Let me hop into the chat to see if there's anything in the chat.
Okay.
Again, I want to um, great tips to help us move forward, most definitely. Um, I want to bring everyone's attention to Joy's information for Namaste Nightcap and my call to action. I would love for you to join the Las Vegas chapter of Women of Global Change if you are not already a member. So that link is in the chat as well as the link to Joy's Namaste Nightcap. And I know I'm going to Namaste Nightcap with you this evening, but what type of breathing can we really indulge ourselves with on a daily basis as we're literally, and some folks are stuck, still stuck, in this kind of existence, like I call it the languishing phase, like I'm here, I'm just here,
Yeah.
you know, but we all want to flourish. We all need to flourish. What type of breathing can we do?
I love breath work because it's the reset, right? It is our own internal reset button of our mind body connection. So to me, it's like a seatbelt, right? The mind and body click, everything forms, and we have reset on our life and that moment and being present. So one that I enjoy a lot is ocean's breath, and or ujjayi breath is the Sanskrit word for that. But ocean's breath is a beautiful breath because it really allows us to intake the breath deeply and then exhale. And if you think about it, we do this a lot, but it's in a negative way. Like if we're frustrated or something, we'll take that deep breath. It's like, and so when you think about it, there's this clarity there. But here we're doing it to calm and then create that clarity. So ocean's breath and also 3-part breath are 2 breaths that I love to do because they just create a cleansing and a clearing to give us calm and peace in that moment. So those are my 2 favorite breaths. So you can decide which one we want to do right now.
Okay. I love ujjayi breath or ocean's breath. In Sanskrit, ujjayi means breath of victory. And so I think that you have you have shared so much of yourself with us and your knowledge this evening that I feel victorious. I feel as if now I have a plan, right? I mean, I have rituals and things, but you have dropped some new things on me tonight, Joy, where I'm not just going to be stuck. So let's do Ujjayi, please.
Okay. All right. So first thing you want to do, if you have shoes on, take your shoes off. We're going to ground and we're going to make sure we are present and clear in thought and mind. So take your shoes off and plant the soles of your feet onto the floor. Bring your hands on top of your knees, lengthen through the torso so that your crown of your head is pointing straight up to the ceiling. And we're going to close our eyes and just begin to be present in the moment. Leave any thoughts or emotions outside those doors. And so ocean's breath or ujjayi breath is a constriction of the throat. So we're literally inhaling through the nose with the constriction of the throat. And then we're also exhaling through the nose with a constriction of the throat. So it sounds like this. So inhale and exhale. You can join in with me now. We'll do this for 3 breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Second time, inhale. Exhale. Last time, inhale. Exhale. And open the eyes. And it's just it's that calming. I don't know if you feel it, but it's literally that calming effect where literally you are at peace and whatever is outside in the world is not around you. So I love Ocean's Breath.
Joy Brett's Cheryl. Thank you so much for coming back to us and spending time with us this evening. I like to end with your wow, your words of wisdom for us.
Words of wisdom. Continue to keep your value within and not let the world take your value from you.
That's deep. Say that again.
Don't keep your value within you and don't let the world take your value from you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and I always enjoy being here with you and the ladies.
Always, and looking ahead to August as we re-enter again, I'm going to ask you back.
Okay, I'll be here.
And tell us where we can find you this evening, because I'm literally going to hydrate, take a 10-minute downtime, and meet you on the mat for Namaste Nightcap. So where can we join you again? I know I have dropped the link in the chat, but are you headed over to Namaste Nightcap this evening?
Yes, it'll be at 8:00 Pacific Standard Time, Mountain Standard Time, since they're both on the same time zone right now. Right. And it will be on my Facebook group, Namaste Nightcap. So you can just type that into the search, bring that up, and be ready to be on the mat with me at 8 p.m. as we go through a gentle flow. Well, first we'll begin with breath work, gentle flow, and then we'll settle into our renewal, which is beautiful. I enjoy it.
Thank you, my dear. Namaste to you. I will see you soon. And thank you for joining us for another fireside chat. Stay tuned later this month for our next fireside chat, where we will be talking about grief healing through art therapy. So we wish you all a wonderful evening or day or afternoon, depending on where you are in this global sisterhood. I'm Dr. Monica Riley. Thank you again for joining us.
Bye.
And the recording